to have a little support.
Thank you all very much. It's a great privilege for me to be here. Let me say first a personal thank you to all of you and to people who have been so kind and so generous over the last few days, including, by the way, my fellow candidates who will be here today. And I'm very proud to have my wife Elizabeth here with me today. And what we have is a dysfunctional healthcare system in the United States of America. And what we need is big, bold, dramatic change, not small change. And we need to not just fix our healthcare system, we need to fix our military and veterans healthcare system, which desperately needs to work. Basically what we do is cover all Americans. In my plan, there are shared responsibilities. The employers are required to either cover their employees or to pay into a fund that will help pay for coverage for their employees. The government plays an important role. The government will set up healthcare markets all across America. And in each of those markets, if you're the consumer, you can go in and choose what your healthcare plan will be. Some of the choices are private insurers, and then one choice is a government plan, basically a Medicare Plus plan. And the idea is to determine whether Americans actually want a private insurer or whether they'd rather have a government-run Medicare Plus kind of single-payer plan. And we'll find out over time which way people go. This healthcare plan also covers the cracks that exist in our healthcare system. There's complete mental health parity. There's coverage for chronic care, coverage for preventative care, coverage for long-term care. We subsidize health insurance premiums for low-income and middle-income families. That caps out at about $80,000 of income a year. There are huge cost containment pieces in this healthcare plan. The requirement of preventative care. We require, by competition, lower administrative costs. We're spending 30 to 40 cents on each healthcare dollar today for administrative costs. We're going to bring those down, bring them down dramatically. We require and demand the use of technology, the use of electronic record keeping, both of which are more efficient and help bring down healthcare costs. And then we're going to have a systematic way to measure what's working, what's the most effective treatment, how do we get the most effective drugs and the least costly drugs. So the last responsible party, besides the employers and the government, are individuals. Everyone in America will be required to, by law, to be covered by this health care plan. And the last thing I'll tell you is the cost is $90 to $120 billion a year. That's the government's cost. And I pay for it by rolling back George Bush's tax cuts for people who make over $1 billion.
However, one of the most controversial aspects of the plan that Governor Schwarzenegger just recently unveiled in California is his proposal that illegal immigrants be covered under his plan. How would you see, under your plan, bringing this very, very large segment of the population into the system or not?
They're children. We should cover children. We should cover children. As long as they pay their fair share with everybody else. An essential component of my plan is that we all pay, employers, employees, the government, but we help each other pay the fair share. The way you deal with immigration, one, yes, we have to secure our borders, no question about it. Not with this stupid wall that has been proposed. But you also set up a legalization plan for the 12 million undocumented workers that are in this country. Maybe it's not very popular, but it makes sense based on setting a path to legalization that involves dealing with issues like healthcare, that involves if they learn English, if they pay back taxes, if they pass a background check, they don't get ahead of the line of those that are trying to get here legally.
And we've got to take the values that have made America great and we have to adapt them to new times. And we know what those challenges are. Because of globalization, because of automation, what we're seeing is increasingly a situation in which the benefits of this new economy accrue to just some and leave too many behind. Wages, salaries have flatlined, and benefits are diminished. And the message that we've heard over the last 6 years is, you're on your own. the troubles, the difficulties, the burdens of globalization are going to be placed on the backs of workers. But there's always been another vision that says we're in it together, and that the burdens and benefits of this new economy have to be spread evenly across the economy. And nowhere do we see that more than in the issue of health care. Is Morgan over here? Hi, Morgan.
Hi, as many young Americans, I went on your website to find some information about you, and all I saw when it came to addressing the healthcare issue was things like HIV, which is very important, and issues like lead poisoning. And so I was wondering, what really are your top issues when you want to talk about healthcare? Are you going to address the pharmaceutical companies? Are you going to address the insurance companies? Because it's not online.
Right. Well, keep in mind that our campaign now is, I think, a little over 8 weeks old, and so we will be putting a very detailed plan on our website. And my commitment is to make sure that we've got universal health care for all Americans by the end of my first term as president. There are some basic principles that this plan will have. Number one, we're going to have to make sure that everybody's in. Number two, we've got to make sure that we apply some principles that I think every expert agrees to in terms of how we save money and get more out of the dollars that we're already spending.
Now, you know, I feel a little bit like this is deja vu all over again. I mean, I worked with some of you all those years ago when we tried to convince the country and the Congress, we convinced the country, but we didn't convince the Congress, that we needed, for the sake of our country, to move toward and achieve universal health care coverage. Now, I am proud we tried. We may not have succeeded, but we set the groundwork in place so that now people are saying, boy, we wish we had done that back then, because costs have continued to increase. Pressures on the system, on our doctors, our nurses, our healthcare workers have just been so stressful. I meet nurses every day who tell me they're thinking of quitting the profession they love because they are having to work overtime. They now have 2 nurses covering where 4 or 5 used to cover. They're not being given the support they need, and each one of you could tell me a story like that. I am in favor of universal health care coverage that brings in the 47 million who are uninsured, which is a disgrace in our country, to have millions of people who are left out of the system, and to guarantee coverage to people who already have insurance. Because let's not kid ourselves, there are a lot of people who think they have insurance except when they need it. So we can't get to universal health care coverage unless we end insurance discrimination once and for all. No more cherry picking. You cannot eliminate people on the basis of pre-existing conditions, because that's what we need insurance for. Map the human genome, we're going to find out we're all susceptible to something. So none of us is going to be insurable if we don't change this system. We already spend more money than anybody in the world, and we don't get the best results because we have all these uninsured people in our country. Now, I know probably better than anybody how hard this will be. Yeah, I know. I've got the scars though for it, and I've been through it. But that just makes me more determined, but it also makes me understand what we're up against. Yes. Because we've got to modernize and reform the way we deliver health care, but we have to change the way we finance health care. And that's going to mean taking money away from people who make out really well right now. That's going to be a big political battle.